I'm Corbett Wall with USDA Livestock and Grain Market News. Here with your weekly feeder and stocker cattle market summary for the week ending December the 9th, where you had feeder cattle and calves. Mostly all your feeder cattle are calves. There's a few true yearlings left, but for the most part we've got feeder calves and then lighter weight calves, as there's not a whole lot of things to stock on. A little bit of wheat down the southern plains, but your feeder cattle, which are mostly all calves, sold uneven. However, mostly wheat to $3 lower. And that's the first week since late September that we've seen feeder cattle prices predominantly lower. We just went through all the big fall run and now getting into the winter run of just higher, especially on your lightweight calves. And finally we saw resistance this week, and your prices were predominantly a little bit lower. Your pressure came early in the week on Monday, where you had your nearby fed cattle futures down to limit the $3 allowable on a daily move there, and that kind of struck everybody off key there. You know, we've been rocking along with record prices almost at every level, and then we come out Monday with the board down pretty hard all day, and then towards the end of the day they're down the limit. And everybody out in the country, you know, in your cattle auctions, your feedlots everywhere, just wondered why all of a sudden that market's down the limit. You can overanalyze the thing and look and see that, yeah, box beef levels were down just a little bit there, and off the record highs that we had just a few weeks ago there. And you know, exports are down just a little bit. A few things like that got a little bit of bearish pressure. But for the most part, we know that there's not very many cattle around. We know that you know, we've got orders to fill. You know, the packers got contracts they have to live up to. They've been needing cattle awfully bad, you know, the last several weeks, and we don't see any reason why they would not continue to do that. But probably has more to do with there's so much play in the board right now, especially on your live cattle contracts. You know, there's so much risk in it. We've got these prices elevated so high, and pretty much everybody that's feeding cattle is using that board to protect their investment. They're hedged up either to their eyeballs, or they're using some kind of future and option mix there to try to offset their risk. And you've got that much downward pressure on the board, on your fed cattle board, well then pretty much on the other side, the only thing that leaves is speculating investors. And those are mostly investment groups. We don't have a whole lot of people anymore that just throwing the dice and gambling that cattle are going to get higher, especially when they're at, you know, this top heavy. It's so you've got these investment groups, and with the MF Global and a lot of uncertainty in some of those positions, well, you've just got some bearishness coming in there. We're getting later on in the year, we're getting closer to the holidays. There's been some money made, you know, in those contracts there, and they're probably just pulling back a little bit, and then when they see it drift a little lower, maybe that's a little knee-jerk reaction. It was lower a little bit more on Tuesday, but then in the middle of the week started to kind of find a bottom there, and really was not a whole lot of concern. But the only thing is we've got you know, the board sitting there under $1.20, and you've got feedlots used to getting, you know, up in the mid-20s for their fed cattle, so that's going to put quite a battle there late in the week. Feedlot replacements, your bigger feeding cattle in the southern plains saw the most pressure on prices this week. You know, down El Reno there in the middle of the week, after that weakness was realized there, a lot of your sales right there in the southern plains, right around the feedlot areas. But up in the northern feedlot areas, we didn't see a whole lot of pressure there. You're starting to see a lot of farmer feeders come in. You know, they're all done with the harvest. They've got all the combines and tractors hosed off. They've got them put away. They don't have a whole lot to do right now. Some of them have put on some fertilizer, but you know, they're starting to get a little snow up that country. And all of a sudden, they think they might want to buy some feeder cattle, and it will help out, with the taxes. They've made off good money this year, so might diversify a little bit and buy some feeding cattle. And so that's kind of picked up the market there on those kind of cattle, especially up in the northern areas where places like Bassett, Nebraska, they had near 650 head of top quality 6-weight weaned steer calves. They averaged 636 pounds at 168.46, nearly $1.70 for big old feeding calves like that. Lighter weights, we still got a lot of demand for those lighter weights. Those little peewee calves weighing in the 3s and 4s were a few dollars cheaper on the average this week, but a few dollars is really hard to tell whenever you got cattle bringing 180, 190, $2 off. The auctioneers usually go in $2.50 increments, so it's kind of hard to be $1 or $2 cheaper, but on the average that's kind of what they were, so really not a whole lot of difference there. The wheat that all of a sudden they come up with in Oklahoma there, they had some good rains there around Thanksgiving time and earlier than that in November, and all of a sudden then they had some warmer temperatures, and all of a sudden they got good wheat stand there in many parts of Oklahoma, especially, not so much Texas, but in Oklahoma. And we pretty much thought they would only turn cows out there, and they did turn a lot of those drought cows out there, but still you've got guys that are going to lease that pasture, and then you got people that are wanting to buy calves to put them on there, especially those little bitty peewee light calves. That way they can take them through the winter on that wheat and then go right on to grass with them. And so we still got good demand for that, but just a little bit weaker all over. So we don't know here at this time. I'm recording this early. Don't know what the fed cattle trade is going to be. They waited till the end of the week to do it. If any of those packers had the positions on the board, you'd think they would demand those cattle at $1.19 and change there instead of haggling, all week long at $1.22 or $3. But it'll all pan out here by the end of the week and probably be light trade. But we'll talk to you next week whenever we find all this out. If you want more market information, check out our website at marketnews.usda.gov, and from the Regional Market News Office in St. Joe, Missouri. We'll talk to you next week.